Hey guys, it's Gazi here. First of all, thank you all for your love and support. I've been getting a lot of kind words and appreciations from my videos, and I read every single one of them. I just want to let you guys know that they really motivate me to do extra content. Thank you. With that being said, I've also been getting a lot of questions, mainly about spell swords. Therefore, without further ado, here are some of the frequently asked questions about spell swords. What is the best in slot for 75 gear is the question that I've been getting the most. Now, I originally planned to have this video released as soon as the raid came out, but since I saw some BOE items floating around, I decided to wait and see how effective they will be. Right now, they're going on for about 8,000 to 10,000 gold a piece on NA live servers, which I think are extremely overpriced. So I don't think a vast majority of players will be able to get their hands on them. And I adjusted the build accordingly. Without the BOE items, it will look something like this. All of these items are obtainable from crafting and through raids. The enhancements are the same as my previous video, with an exception on this slot over here. I didn't realize you could put a green gem in this slot, and if you put a green slot instead of a red gem in this slot, it will probably benefit a little bit more. But everything else is the same. Concentration for hat, skill for top and bottom, mastery for bracer and belt, haste for boots, mastery rings for mastery gems for rings, break formation and hard eyes for your soul forces. Mastery on this slot over here. You can choose to put a red gem here, but I believe you benefit a little bit more from mastery, so I recommend getting mastery. Red, green, green is the gems for your relics, and of course magic attack for your weapon. This build will put your haste at around 10%, and yes, I do believe 10% is better than 15% haste right now. But if you are getting gear drop and you're pushing your haste towards 50%, I will talk about that later in the video. Now the second question is about Astral Blessing. Now there are 3 builds that I would recommend doing in this patch. The build that I'm going for is this build, and no matter which build you're doing, you have to your build always starts like this and end up on this split. Now the build I'm using is not going for Huben or Kanxing. I'm going for all the mini dolls that give you some extra stats, and it will look something like this. Now next patch, when you get 32 astral points, I will put 1 more into magic power. Now if you are having trouble reaching the 95% threshold for perception, I recommend going for the Huben build. Once again, you start like this, and you go into Huben for the extra 4.5% into perception. With that one extra stat, you can put it here or here. They both give magic power. I do not think it is necessary to go over 95% perception in the current patch. Later on, when the bosses get higher stages, the value for perception will go higher, which is the ultimate reason why I didn't go for Huben in this patch. Now, the next build that a lot of you might go for is a minor adjustment to your haste stat. Now, this build applies to people that are having trouble reaching the haste threshold of either 10% or 15%. There are 3 dots that you can get. The first one is over here, the second one is over here, and the last one is over here. Now, with those 3 points being applied, you can get an extra 39 haste stats that will hopefully push the threshold over 10 or 15%. But if not, there are some other tweaks that you can do. I do not recommend putting a haste on your hat unless you absolutely have to. You can choose to use a haste food, like exquisite pork, to push your haste over the threshold, but it could end up costing you extra gold. The next question is 10% haste or 15% haste. Now, TLDR, I believe 10% haste is better than 15% haste, but since the drops from raids are pretty random, and you definitely cannot guarantee which piece that you want to get will drop, so it's entirely up to you. If you end up if your haste end up being like 14%, I will probably just try to push it to 15%. It's not that much big of a deal. I've been pretty unlucky with my gear drop, and I'm only at 64 right now, so I actually decided to disenchant some of the off pieces. I only used this one over here, which makes my haste at just over 10%. If I go back to my original Astral build, which is it will put my haste at just over 10%, which is the sweet spot for me. But if you choose to equip and you push yourself to 15%, it's fine as well. Now for the Shadows for Focus build, you benefit a little bit more from Haste, so 15% is probably acceptable for Shadows for Focus compared to CDS. But for me, CDS 10% is the sweet spot. Now for the age-old question, Shadows for Focus or CDS? This question gets thrown at me every single day. Now, I run about 3 to 5 raids every single week to test different builds and stats. I can tell you that TLDR, they perform extremely similar in raids. There is no such thing that Shadows for Focus is doing more damage on bosses. I just want to set the record straight. Use whatever you like. Use whatever you're comfortable with. It's perfectly fine. Both builds has their pros and cons. For Shadows for Focus, your rotation is not as static as the CDS build, and since you're not casting CDS as much, you don't have to worry about the boss, like say, ranging you or knocking you back to interrupt your Claw Dragon Strike as much. But realistically speaking, when these mechanics do happen, both specs will suffer DPS loss anyway. I personally go into raids with CDS build most of the time because of the execute mechanic on your Jade Dragon Chill. Some of the more annoying bosses become increasingly stronger at lower HP, namely the 6th boss of Jade Palace and the Turtle from Tempest. So when doing more damage at lower percentage will probably help out the raid a little bit better. When perfectly performed, the rotation for CDS is more difficult to perfectly adjust to different scenarios and takes more practice. But if you want to do a comparison between SSF and CDS when parsing, SSF numbers will always be a lot higher than CDS because you're benefiting from both break formation and also Kring's Shadows reverse execute. So if you want to run some tests, try taking off your Soul Force and practice Shadows for Focus build on a takedown dummy and CDS build on a ordinary dummy for more realistic stats. That's all of the questions. I will now talk about some of the upcoming spell source changes that has already hit live servers in China. When we will get this is out of my knowledge. If we will even get this is also out of my knowledge. But right now, the skill set that we're using right now is almost exactly the same as the previous patch on Chinese servers. So I would assume these are coming to our servers as well. Now for spell swords, Sword Artist, optimized Formation of Yin and Yang, and 1,000 Swords animation. Now, what this means is that you don't have to worry about animation canceling within your burst as much anymore. This will benefit Shadows for Focus a little bit more compared to CDS, because right now in Shadows for Focus, you're using a one charge CDS to cancel the animation for 1,000 Swords. Next one is Kring Talon's radius increased to 4 meters, and the target number is increased to 6. A slight buff to her AoE, but it's not a really big deal. Now, this one is Kring Talon's stack will be increased to 4 stacks. Now, this will probably be a difference in our rotation, but this is a really nice thing to have because it gives you more room to error. But we will try to keep Kring Talons within 1 to 2 stacks anyway, so I'm not too sure how big of a deal this might be. This will probably benefit it will probably benefit SSF build a little bit more compared to CDS, but we'll have to test it out. Now the fourth one, straight up translation, is that Cloud Dragon Strike's charging can be interrupted by pressing shift. Now, I'm a little bit confused about this one because on live servers, we can already cancel it with shift, just like that. Maybe it's the difference between servers, but it could also mean that when you charge and you press shift, you will no longer cancel the animation. We'll have to test it out when it hit live servers. It's just a really nice thing to have. Shadows for Focus damage radius is increased from 3 meters to 4 meters. Okay, not a really big deal anyway. Now the next one is really cool. Your Kring's Cry, right now your Kring's Cry is for every 5% haste that you have, you will get 1% critical damage. Which is the reason why we're trying to have our haste at thresholds of 10% and 15%. But after the changes, for every 1% haste, you will get 0.2% critical damage. So the haste stat will be a little bit more comfortable to play around. You don't have to strictly go for 10 or 15% haste as much anymore. So this is really, really cool. Now, the last two are a really big buff to our class. And I think this one is the difference between the difference maker between the Shadows for Focus build and the Cloud Dragon Strike build. Now, right now, the Jade Dragon Chill Astral Blessing is that if the target has less than 50% HP, our damage will be increased to 10%. but in the Chinese servers right now, this number has been buffed to 16%. Now overall, this means that your damage to targets below 50% will probably increase by about 10%, and this could be the final difference maker between Shadows for Focus and CDS build. Last one is when performing Concussion Sword, you will now receive a buff up to 2 stacks. Now, we will call it Concussion Stack for the sake of translation. Now, this stack, it doesn't say how long this buff will last. I believe it should last for 8 seconds. Now, what it means is that you can use it twice, and it give you a buff. And then when you have this buff, the last Concussion Sword will cost no chi, and which will be a very important thing to have in both builds, because it will make your rotation a little bit more flawless, and it will have more room for error. Now I will talk about some of the upcoming changes for Blaze-Storm. Now overall, Blaze-Storm got a pretty big buff as well, but they didn't get as many changes compared to Sword Artists. So first of all, increase the radius of Skyfall, and adjusted the skill animation. So Skyfall is the second stage of your Cloud Shredder. Will probably make it a little bit more flawless, and as you can see, after you press it, there's a little bit of a minor animation thing at the end. So they'll probably fix that. Second thing, greatly shorten the animation for Flickering Blade. Your gap closing skill. It's gonna be pretty nice if they made it a little bit more fast. Third is attack on all directions. Stun effect can be applied to enemies within 4 meters. So this skill over here, right now it's a single target stun for 3 seconds. They changed it into an AoE stun for 4 seconds. Now this will be very cool in PvE and PvP. When performing your burst, I forgot what the skill is called, Silent Snow without dust. When you perform this skill, right now, you press it, you enter Selflessness for 18 seconds, and then if you press it again, you'll exit the stance and do a little burst at the end. But right now, after the buff, you will no longer exit the Selflessness stance when you press the skill again. So you can use this skill, right, do your damage, you can use the burst, and you will stay in Selflessness stance, which probably will be a pretty good DPS increase as well. The Astral Blessing Illumination. Oh, okay, this one's really cool. I have to talk about that. Right now in Illumination build, you're trying to have your haste exactly at say 28% for the extra tick onto your dot. But after the changes, you will get more damage according to the number of haste you have. So you no longer have to strictly follow the haste guideline. You can have like say 31 or 32% haste, and the damage will scale accordingly to that, which will probably make you overall do more damage as well. Lastly is when performing your Snow Silence, right now you reduce the healing effect of enemies by 40%, and they nerfed it to 30%. Not a really big deal, a slight nerf to Blaze-Storm's PvP, but overall, because of the buff of attack on directions, your class is going to be stronger overall. That's the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed, and I hope this video helped you out in some way. Please leave a like and a sub. I read every single comment. Thank you all for your love and support. And for now, happy soloing. Peace out.